Hey there everyone, it's Matt from the Literary Gamers coming to you today with Gettysburg, Badges of Courage. Now, what can be said about Gettysburg that already hasn't been said? Well, a lot, because every year there's at least 30 or 40 new books that come out about the battle, or articles that are constantly written. A whole magazine is devoted to Gettysburg, and that's great. I think that the Battle of Gettysburg is interesting. And because of that, we're going to take a look at Gettysburg Badges of Courage. This is designed by Grant and Tom Dalgleish. I'm not sure. I'm very sorry if I butchered your names. This is from Columbia Games. They were kind enough to send me a review copy of this game, and I thank them for that. Now, in Gettysburg Badges of Courage, I keep tripping over that, you are trying to reenact the Battle of Gettysburg, but as most war games often get criticized as just being simulations, this one doesn't really fit that bill, and that's something I always look for in a good historic game. Now, with this game, I'm going to give you an idea of how the turn goes, and kind of how the game plays out, and I'll tell you my thoughts at the end. So, I'm not going to touch on every single rule here. I'm going to be talking about a few things, and then we'll be moving through to my thoughts. First things first, I want to let you know this is a fog of war style game. What that means, if you're new to wargaming or if you're new to historic gaming, it means that you can see the units that you command, but the enemy cannot. There will be times when you have to flip your unit down so it can be seen by the other player, but overall, you usually have the control over what's being seen on the table. Now, also, when I talk about historic games, I will often be using the term enemy as the other force. I don't mean that the person sitting across the table from me is an enemy. No, I mean just that it's how I usually talk when I'm talking about battles. So, at the beginning of the round, both players are going to roll their dice, 2 dice each, and whoever rolls the higher number is going to gain initiative for the round. Then what's going to happen is units are going to come out based on a timesheet that the game provides, and they'll come out in specific locations, historic locations where these people came in, and at that point they're going to have what's called the command phase. The command phase is basically a time when commanders can spend points to replenish units. It's also a time when you can get an idea of who you're going to be commanding. This game is brigade level and is commanded by division commanders and or corps commanders. So then what you do is you head to the fire phase. Firing is 1 hex away, and this game has a really interesting and neat mechanic for firing. Is you flip the unit down. First off, they have to be in range of their commander, which is placed on the little wooden block that they have for them. And then whatever number is facing the enemy is the number of dice you roll. Then in the corner of the block is a small red number. That's the number you need to roll or lower to put a hit onto a unit. Now, because this game is Fog of War, what happens is you say, this unit will be firing at this hex. You actually don't see who you're firing on, so you roll your dice, and depending on how many hits you got, you'll tell the enemy, hey, I scored 2 hits on you. They look at their units that are in that hex, and they find the strongest, and they tick the block down. They kind of turn it to the weaker side until it's completely gone. But they tick it down, and they start with the strongest first. If there is a tie, the player chooses which one that they wound. After that, any unit that hasn't fired will move, following basic movement points and terrain details. A lot of really eclectic terrain here at Gettysburg. And then you'll have what's called melee. If you are sharing a space with an enemy unit, and you're still in command range, you can do melee combat, which is you do 3 rounds of what you just did in the firing phase. And then you have supply, in which you can use commanders to refresh other units as well, and you pick everyone back up. And you do this depending on the scenario you're playing until a certain turn, or if you're playing the grand battle, which is the whole thing, you're going to play all of that. There are night phases, which give action points to commanders to refresh themselves to help refresh other units, and of course there's victory conditions. How victory points are tabulated is there are certain sections on the board that have numbers. Those are points if you've held them, depending on the scenario you're playing. and then the amount of units you've destroyed. And usually the units are calculated by a difference. So let's say the Confederate player destroyed 5 units and the Union player destroyed 3 units. The Confederate player has 2 victory points, plus any points on the board that they're holding. That's the gist of the game. I'm not going to get too deep into, like I said, the minutia. I just wanted to give you an idea of how the game kind of played, and I'll put up pictures as the time goes through here. And so we're going to get to my thoughts. First off, I have been studying the Civil War for, my goodness, 12 years now. It'll be, 12 years. And I've always wanted to find a game that properly captured Gettysburg in an easy-to-learn play. And I'm happy to say that Gettysburg Badges of Courage does that for me. This is a game from 2004. I had seen it many times when I was visiting Gettysburg, but I wasn't into tabletop gaming at that point. I had only really been doing a lot of like mass market gaming, and I saw it and I was like, it just looks like it was too much for me to handle at the time. The more I got into gaming, I'm like, I should go back and play Gettysburg, the Badges of Courage one with the blocks from Columbia Games. And I was so happy that they reached out to me and said that they'd like to send me this, because this game is fantastic. This is a game that, this is a war game that I want it to be. Yes, it can be long, especially if you're playing Grand Battle, which I don't recommend on your first time. Play a few of the scenarios first, and then play Grand Battle. But Gettysburg Badges of Courage really speaks to me because when I first got into studying the Civil War, Gettysburg was where I went first. I live in Connecticut, so it was the closest battlefield from the war for me to go to. And I've always loved it there. We've been there many times since. And this game really does capture the feeling of the battle. And what I mean by that is, when I played as the Confederate player, I knew that on day one, the majority of my units were going to be coming out and really creating a dent and a wallop into the Union. And when I'm playing as the Union, I was trying different strategies to try to basically hold them off and try to keep the Confederates in the northern part of town. Like I said, I could talk about Gettysburg until the end of the day, but I only have so much room on this memory card, so I can't do that. But anyway, there's a lot of dice chucking in this game, but the terrain modifiers, the way that combat works, I think it really shines. And you know me, my Instagram tag is Dice Chucker. I love dice chucking games, but this one does it so well. I feel like when I'm rolling my dice, I'm doing it because I wanted to plan a certain way to make sure that I rolled well. And yes, the dice can just say, nah. And every time you fire, you miss everything, but that's neither here nor there. Gettysburg Badges of Courage is a phenomenal game. It is definitely going to stick with me for a very long time. And of course, once again, it wouldn't be the Literary Gamers if I didn't have a book for you, and that is Stephen Sears' Gettysburg. This is considered to be a classic in the Gettysburg circles. And for me, it tends to be one of the more readable ones. There's a lot of really great Gettysburg books out there if you are committed to studying the Battle of Gettysburg. But if you're not and you want just a general overview on the battle, this is the best one because, like I said, it's the most readable. The others are very dry, and while I love them because they helped me understand the Battle of Gettysburg, somebody who just kind of wants the basic idea of what happened here will definitely like reading Stephen Sears. I could tell you to go read The Killer Angels. I think most people who know about the Battle of Gettysburg have read The Killer Angels, which is the great historical fiction book by Michael Shara. I wanted to bring a nonfiction book on this one. So that's going to be it for me today, everyone. That's Gettysburg Badges of Courage from Columbia Games, and I recommend Stephen Sears' Gettysburg with that. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We are doing a campaign to get us to 1,000, where we're going to have special videos that we're launching and giveaways throughout that time. And I'm going to still be reviewing historic games, so keep your eyes out, and we'll have some other ones coming soon. We'll see you next time, everybody.